Video has emerged showing Palestinians stripped and rounded up by Israeli forces at a sports stadium in Gaza. The footage was released by the Palestinian Quds news agency. It comes as the UN sounds the alarm about Israel's treatment of detainees. The Israeli army has rejected criticism of that video. In a statement, it says the individuals detained were treated in accordance with international law and that it's often necessary for what it calls terror suspects to hand over their clothes to be searched to ensure they aren't concealing explosive vests or other weapons. The army says the clothes are not immediately returned to the detainees in case they conceal something that could be used for hostile purposes. It adds that the clothing is returned to the detainees when it's possible to do so. Well, since the beginning of its war on Gaza, the Israeli army has detained hundreds of men and boys. Some Palestinians released by the military have been talking about their treatment at the hands of Israeli soldiers, accusing them of torture and humiliation. A warning, viewers may find some of these first-hand accounts distressing.
كانوا يخلونا زي اللي عزك الكلاب نعوف ان ما عودتش يضربوك ان ما ناويتش يضربوك ان ما بعتش يضربوك يكسروك فيش لازم تعمل اللي بدهم اياه.
ممنوع تطلب حاجه، لو قلت بدي اشرب طبعا الضرب بينزل على راسك او على اي جزء من جسمك. فيش لا فرق ما بين صغير وكبير. يعني انا عمري 62 سنه لان ضربوا لي هوايه في صدري، انا عندي مشاكل في الجهاز التنفسي.
وشلحونا عريانين زي ما جابتك امك، شلحونا وغميونا واخذونا قاعد على النقب وقعدوا يطبوا فينا بوكسات. فلما وصلنا في الباصات خشينا قاعدوا يكهربوا فينا وشربونا حبوب هدوسه وميه وشبه ومش عارف ايش وميه وسخه وعكره ويخبطوا عروسنا.
ترفع راسك يخبطك في الدبشك يخبطك في اي ايش بايده. بعدين كان معاهم زي البشمات في الايد يخبطك.
وانا قاعد الصبح حرقني في السيجاره في ظهري وقاعد يغلط علي ويسب علي. هاي لقيت في ظهري صغرى هيك. بعديها والساعه ما حملونا العصر قاعدوا يضربوا فينا كمان.
اخويا عنده مصارينه مقطعه، عامل عمليه في مصارينه، خدت بالك، ما رسموا على الكهرباء، يصير يصوت ويقول لهم يا عمي انا مريض، كل ما يقولوا له يقول لهم انا مريض يزيدوا.
الميه ميه، يقعد يحط راسنا في الميه، يمشينا على القزاز، يقعد يقول لنا هذا حماس، هذا فتح، هذا يعني اللي مهان صواريخ وهان صواريخ زي هيك يقعد يقول لنا، نقول له ما بنعرفش يا عم احنا اميين.
احنا بولنا حالنا، احنا
انا كمان
احنا يا عمي من كتر الضرب واللي تيجي تقول له بدك تخش الحمام يقول لك لا ممنوع تخش حمام، ممنوع.
معصبات عينيا وبيدي 30 يوم. 30 يوم. هو كيف لما بيجي يسوقك وانت مش شايف بتتعثر في حاجه كهرباء على الارض. كان اول 18 يوم ما اكلتش ولا حاجه غير الميه، بعدين يا تفاحه يا خياره، يوم تفاحه يوم خياره.
انا بالنسبه لي حطوني في خيمه وحط الباروده هنا على كتفي، قال لي اختار لك موته او حطك في البحر، او قلت له ده ربنا كتب لي الشهاده اموت شهيد. قال لي اختار يمين ولا شمال؟ قلت له ما بعرفش. قال لي يلا بديش اخليك تموت شهيد، تعال على اليمين. من 10 ل 12 ساعه على الحصمه ولبسوني شو اسمه هذا بلبز عشان ممنوع اروح الحمام، عملها لحالي.
Triestino Mariniello is a professor of law at Liverpool John Moores University, a specialist in international law and a member of the legal team representing Gaza victims before the International Criminal Court. He joins me live now from Liverpool. Thank you so much for being on Al Jazeera. First of all, we've seen this video that has been released in the last few hours, or the last day or so, showing Palestinian boys and men being stripped to their underwear in the sports stadium in Gaza. What is your initial reaction to that video?
Well, first of all, many thanks for having me today. I think the video clearly shows the humanization of Palestinians, including children that we have seen in this video. And this dehumanization reflects the rhetoric of the Israeli Ministry of Defense, Gallant, that since the beginning of the war has said that Palestinians are human animals and have to be treated as such. And this video really reflects these words. Dehumanization means a violation of international law, in particular of international humanitarian law that applies because this is an armed conflict, and international human rights law, because we have assisted to the commission of inhuman and degrading treatment of Palestinians. International humanitarian law provides protection, which means in this case humane treatment, and this applies to everyone, applies the being treated humanly in the context of armed conflict applies to everyone, so to civilians, but also to members of armed groups. If Israel were able to prove that there are members of Palestinian armed groups among these people, and this protection is absolute. Absolute in legal terms means that there is no derogation. In other words, there is no military necessity or emergency that issue that Israel can use in order to justify inhuman or degrading treatment of Palestinians.
Yeah. Well, what does this type of treatment do to the psyche of someone who has been detained, especially the young boys that have faced this treatment?
Well, as I said, I mean, the protection provided under international humanitarian law, international human rights law are clear in this regard. Being treated humanly means prohibition, absolute prohibition of torture, ill treatment, and any form of degrading treatment. We have seen that this is not, this video does not show isolated acts. This may appear as a part of mass arrest campaign put in place by the IDF, by the Israeli Defense Forces in Gaza. In relation to this mass arrest campaign, human rights groups, including Amnesty International, have reported serious allegations of serious violation of international law, including torture, ill treatment, enforced disappearances, executions, and even in the West Bank have been reported, including by the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, the death of some Palestinian detainees by the Israeli security forces. It must be clear that these are not only violations of international law, which entail the state responsibilities or the responsibility of Israel as a state, but these also amount to war crimes and crimes against humanity. And as such, they demand an urgent investigation by independent institution. Independent means for sure not Israeli military system, which has shown, as reported by the UN, that is not willing and able to provide justice to Palestinians in relation to this.
Yeah, from a legal point of view, given all of that, what you've just explained there, what can you and other aid international groups actually do?
Well, what human rights groups, in particular Palestinian civil society, both in the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, do is presenting evidence, submission to the Office of the Prosecutor of the International Criminal Court. The International Criminal Court has jurisdiction over the alleged commission of international crimes in this context, as repeated by the prosecutor in these past few days. It's frustrating for the Palestinian victims and also for human rights groups, Palestinian civil society, that the prosecutor has very firmly condemned Hamas attacks from the 7th of October, and that's part of his mandate, of course, but has been very reluctant to put in place any effective investigation in relation to alleged international crimes committed against Palestinians. I mean, what we see is the repetition of double standards by the Office of the Prosecutor, which are unacceptable, particularly in light of the unfolding genocide in Gaza.
Indeed. Thank you so much. We really do appreciate your time. That is Triestino Mariniello. Thank you.